stitching out a practice grid, and because it's just practice, I don't really care that it's going over other practice things. All I need is a grid to practice on, and it's just practice, so if it goes over stitching, oh well. Now with my grid sewn out, and again, there's things inside of it, but this is just practice, so I don't really care if I sew over the top. I do need to set up my Select and Sew for this type of sewing. So what I have done is I've opened up in Select and Sew 2-point placement. I have used multi-placement, so you have to select that first. And then I am going to try using the InstaPlace, which you have to do to get this the box, but I'm going to try fit, the setting fit down there. I'm going to be trying what happens with fit versus stretch. And I'm going to be able to place this pattern point by point into my grid and sew them continuously, as many as I want to place that join together, that have endpoints that meet. Next, I'm selecting my pattern, and then I'm going to be placing it. I'm going to be placing it in the top left-hand corner and the bottom right-hand corner. I'm going to be using my needle jog to make sure I get the placement correctly. And what will happen is I will bring the first point and touch the start button. Then I'm going to go to select, and this one will turn yellow, and then I'll place that one. And then I'm going to be able to hit next, and I will only have to place the end point. Now you can flip which direction the triangle is going. Right now mine is going in the proper direction, so I don't need to flip it, but I will when I change directions. So I've placed that first triangle. So I placed that point, and I had to flip it this way first because it was going to be out of the safe area. And then I had to hit next, or I'm sorry, select. I had to hit select, and then this point becomes selected. And I placed that point and flipped it back so it's in the right orientation. And when I hit next, this will automatically be there, and I'll just place that next point. To get this shape, what I had to do is I had to place this one and that one, a triangle, triangle, and then I went up that way, and I did that all in one line. But then to get them to come and fill in through right here, like I wanted, I had to then, for the last pattern, you push pattern so that it will actually place that pattern. And then it will ask, would you like to place the pattern again? You say no because you need to pick it again. I just went in and picked that pattern again, and then I placed that triangle and that triangle. And now I'm going to say no, and I'm just going to sew this out. It's going to look funny because I'm doing it over the top of something I've already stitched out. But this is what I had on my frame to practice with, and I didn't want to have to remove it just for practice, so I don't care if it sews over the top. It's just what I'm going to be comparing is I'm doing a section that looks like this with fit checked, and then I'll do another V because I have enough room to do another V, and check stretch and see what the differences are, and I'll decide which one I like better. So it has stitched out, and what I am looking for is, are these going to run into each other? And at the size, they're not. But I am noticing that I need to go in and snap these two endpoints right in here. Well, they're not endpoints. I need to snap these two nodes so that the heart will join together, and that's a simple fix. So I'm going to do that, and when I sew out the next V, I will check to make sure that that is fixed, and I will also be putting it on stretch and see if that makes any difference, because I am very happy with how this is sewing out. But what will be the ultimate is I will need to know when I put the other triangle that is not this one and it uses a different color, what happens along this point right here, which one will be the better fit. It did not take very long at all, and so I have now placed this set of them. It's just the V that goes next to this one, and it's right here, except for this time I used the stretch setting instead of fit. That's these settings right here, and that's just so I can compare. If it might not even make a difference, but I'm going to stitch this out now. So it's stitching out, but I could have placed a whole row of these so it would make a W all together. And I didn't do that because I wanted to test the setting, the stitch versus the stretch versus the fit. But even on the real quilt, I wouldn't do a whole row at once, particularly because I am going to be using a batting that's rather heavy. If I get it to fit now, by the time it reached the end of the row, because of the batting and draw in, it might not fit the way that it should. So I'm only going to be doing small sections at a time, and so that it will truly fit where I want it to go. So it has finished stitching out, and I'm going to say that I don't see that big a difference between stretch and fit, but I think if I were to have to choose, I think that right now I would go with fit, but I have to see what it looks like when I place the other triangle in the other half of these, so I'm going to do that next. I have just now repeated with the other triangle, and I'm going to use a different color of thread, and it's now going to stitch on out. I used a variegated thread for these blocks. I am going to be using a different color for each block. I think I've decided I probably won't use a variegated though. But what I'm looking for is to see this intersection right here, which one is stitching out better when they have to meet. And I think either way is going to work for me. So I can either do fit or I can do stretch.